Hi, and welcome to Camille's Country Corner. I am Camille, and on today's episode we will be making some beef stew. It is kind of a rainy day out today, and I thought it would be a great meal for today. So let's get started. I'll show you what you need for this recipe. But first, before we start, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Definitely hit the like button. All right, let's get started on today's meal. So with any variety of beef stew, you can pretty much use any veggies that you like. Today in mine, I am going to be using, of course, some stew meat. I have potatoes. I have some tomatoes left from my garden. We're at the end. I have some carrots, celery, some fresh corn from the farmer's market today. I took out a sourdough bread that I have made for the freezer. And we've got some assorted herbs. We have some fresh herbs, which consist of rosemary and basil. And then we have some onion powder, garlic powder. We have some chopped garlic. We also have some Italian seasoning and some oregano. All right, let's get started with this meal. All right, to my pan, I'm going to add about a tablespoon and a half of the olive oil. And I have about a pound of stew meat here that I'm going to be adding. If anything is too big, I am going to cut it down. We don't need huge pieces. I'm going to cook my onion at the same time as my stew meat because it all has to simmer after it browns. And it just gives the stew meat just that much more flavor. So I'm just cutting it into bite-sized pieces, and it'll cook faster that way as well. But with stew meat, it's a tougher cut of meat, so you have to cook it a little bit longer. You have to let it simmer. Let's move this out of our way. Kind of noisy. And yes, I'm cutting on the wrong cutting board for this. So I really will have to scrub and disinfect this because this is my vegetable cutting board. And I'm pretty sure I said it. I have 1 pound of stew meat here. Okay, right now all we want to do is brown this meat a little bit. Season it just a bit. You want to season every step of the way, give it lots of flavor. And I'm probably going to add about a clove or two of garlic. And we're going to grab all of our dried herbs as well, because we're going to go ahead and add this. So probably about 2 to 3 cloves of minced garlic there. Add about a teaspoon of garlic powder, about a teaspoon of onion powder, about a teaspoon of oregano, and it looks like I only have about a half a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. We just want to get this browned a little bit. And I will thicken this later because it's a stew and not a soup. All right, and we're going to want to add about 6 to 8 cups of chicken broth or water. Today I have the beef bouillon, so mine will be water with the beef bouillon in it. And I will be adding at least 8 cups of water. I'm going to add about a tablespoon of bouillon because For every cup, you add 1 teaspoon of the bouillon. Okay, now that all our stew meat is browned, I'm going to go ahead and add the water here. We are going to go ahead and add, my bay leaves are so small. I'm going to add a couple of bay leaves here. For me, I'm going to add probably, oh my gosh, they're tiny. We'll want to pull them out afterward, but we're going to go ahead and get this back up to a boil. We're going to put it on a simmer and we're going to let that go for about an hour so our stew meat gets nice and soft and tender. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and chop the rest of our vegetables and have everything ready so when it's time to add the veggies, it'll be ready. All right, let's get our veggies chopped. Whenever I think of comfort food, I think of soups and stews and homemade breads. And I think that's because that's what my mom always made in the winter time. I grew up in New York and it snowed a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. And we always had soup or stew throughout the winter time. I have 3 carrots here that I'm cutting up. And I did a whole onion that I cooked with the stew meat. We've got 2 celery. We've got 2 russet potatoes, but you can use any potatoes here. Russets are better though. Red potatoes are okay, but sometimes they're a little bit grainy in soups. And I don't even peel my russets. I like to have the rustic stew, but I do like everything bite size. So I probably have them at about 1-inch cubes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cut down my herbs so we can go ahead and just have those simmering right along with the rest of the meat and the onions and the garlic. That way we get some really good flavor on here. And I've just got some fresh basil and some fresh rosemary from my garden. A little bit of mint that I have pulled for something else. So let's remove the mint because that won't taste very good in our stew. Unless we are making this Moroccan style, which we are not today. And for the basil, I'm just mostly taking it off the stem because the stem can be a little bit, too tough. We're just going to give this a rough chop. It's all going to cook down in our stew anyway. All right, let's take you over. We're up to a bubbling now. So what I'm going to do is turn this down to a simmer. We're going to put a top on it and we're going to just let that simmer for about 30 minutes. Sorry, lots of banging. 30 minutes. And then we are going to finish cutting up our veggies. So all that we have left is our tomatoes and our corn. Oh, my sad little tomatoes from my garden. And I'm cutting everything in about the same size. Dice, about 1 inch. All right, I will bring you back and show you everything when we put it in the pot. Let me just show you. All I'm going to do, this is very fresh corn on the cob. I'm just going to cut it off the cob, and we're going to cook it in the stew just like this. All right, since our soup has been simmering for about 30 minutes, I'm going to pull out some of these bay leaves, because once all the veggies get in here, it's going to be really hard to get them out. And of course, since I threw some basil in here, not so easy to tell which is my bay leaves. And they're so small. All right, I think I've got out most of the bay leaves, so let's go ahead and add the rest of our veggies. Without burning myself, maybe not. Now at this point, I am going to taste for seasoning. And I did throw my tomatoes in while the meat was cooking. Oh, that's really good. But I am going to add just a little bit more of the bouillon, maybe another teaspoon. Oh, look, another bay leaf. I've pulled out 3, and I think I have 4 in here. I'll eventually find it. Okay, we're gonna let this simmer for another 30 minutes, and we'll check it to see if the veggies are done and see if our seasonings need any tweaking. And I'll bring you back here in just a moment. All right, let's test this, see what it needs. Oh, it's fantastic. It definitely needs more pepper. A little bit more salt. Let's get some dried herbs here. All right, I've got some more oregano. Go ahead and add that. And I've got some basil here. I think basil is my favorite dried herb, or herb in general. I love basil. Love it. Whether it's dried or fresh. All right, let's give it one more taste test. All right, let's plate this up and I'll show you how I serve mine. All right, guys, I was so excited to eat that I forgot to show you how to thicken up this stew. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch. We're just gonna add a couple of tablespoons of the cold water. We're making a slurry. That's just equal parts water and cornstarch. And we need to have this at a bubbling. I'm going to go ahead and pour the whole thing in here because I actually want thick stew, so hopefully that's going to be enough. And it'll come back up to a boiling really fast. I like mine really thick, so I'm going to do 1 more tablespoon. I like mine to be almost like a gravy thick. That'll do it. I see it thickening beautifully. All right, let's plate this up. This is how I have plated up mine. So let's go ahead, give this a try. A little bit of potato and some carrot and some of the stew meat. See how dedicated I am? I'm about to burn my mouth. That meat is so tender. All of those fresh herbs that I used along with the dried, it just makes this soup delicious. And I also have homemade sourdough. I will have to show you how I make that because it actually is a 2-day process. But there's nothing like homemade sourdough. So good. All right, friends, I'm going to curl up on the couch, watch some Frankie and Grace. If you haven't watched that Netflix series, so funny, so worth it. But I am going to curl up on the couch with my bowl of soup on this rainy day with my delicious sourdough. And I am going to cover up with a blanket and just be in full mode comfort today. And I hope you try this recipe. I hope you make it. Let me know what you put in your beef stew. I'm interested to see. I always love new ideas. And if you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, definitely hit the like button, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for stopping by today. Have a good one.